Before I was born, my parents had a daughter and a sister. She died when she was a toddler while my mom was pregnant with me. Ever since the death, my mom has been stuck in grief and has been unable to move on healthily. My dad bailed when I was a baby, and the relationship with my mom was rough. Growing up, I heard all about my sister, who died before I was born. My mom would have us in extreme mourning on the anniversary, my sister's birthday, and the anniversary of the day she found out she was pregnant. She'd pull me out of school and I couldn't do anything on those days. We didn't celebrate Christmas because Mom said there was nothing worth celebrating without her. Mom would get upset if I wanted to celebrate my birthday. Then she'd throw parties and display photos of my sister around the house and yard for everyone in attendance to see her. She told me it was also a way for me to have my sister at my birthday parties. Whenever I had friends over, she would talk obsessively about my sister. She made them so uncomfortable. I started dating my wife as a teenager, and I did my best to keep her away from Mom. The first time they met, Mom talked about my sister the whole time, showing off her baby pictures and home movies of her, and spoke nothing about me. My wife asked what I was like as a baby and asked to see photos of me, but Mom couldn't stop talking about her, most precious little girl. When I moved out of my mom's house, our relationship was strained more because I refused to stop my life on those 3 days anymore, and I also started to celebrate Christmas. Mom was so mad. She yelled at me on the phone that I was a monster and how I could care so little about my sister being dead. I shouldn't be able to act like those days are ordinary or we have anything to be happy about at Christmas. We had very little contact for a few years, and then she reached out to me. We talked, and I told her she needed to get help because I couldn't live like that anymore and couldn't live with the feeling like I didn't matter to her. She apologized and promised she would be better, and she was, until now. My wife and I are expecting a little girl, and a few days ago, my mom declared that she couldn't wait to meet baby Ella, Ella being my sister's name. I told her we weren't using the name, and Mom freaked out. She told me I couldn't possibly have a little girl and not name her after my sister. She told me Ella deserved to be honored and remembered, and how could I do this to her and to my sister? And where was the love for my sister? I told her to stop. She said I had to use the name, and she would tell my wife the same thing. Her daughter deserved that. I told her I would never name my daughter after hers. After seeing her reaction to me not using the name Ella, I regretted us getting back in touch because she would never stop wanting everything to revolve around that loss. My mom called me an evil bastard for wanting to erase my sister. Am I the idiot? Wow, it sucks that your whole life has been about your mom grieving her daughter. It's too bad she didn't let herself enjoy being your mom. You're entirely not the idiot here. This is your daughter and your wife's, and only the two of you get to name her. For your mom to have assumed she would be named Ella and then freak out when told otherwise just shows you that nothing has changed for her. Keep your distance for your own peace of mind. Congrats to you and your wife. OP seems on the verge of going no contact with his mom. The odds of him allowing her to spend time alone with the baby are slim to none. She'll drag her daughter's things out of the attic and insist that OP take them. This is the dress Ella wore home from the hospital, so it's the dress your Ella will wear. This was Ella's favorite toy, food, animal, first word, so it must also be your Ella's. Any indication that your daughter isn't your sister reborn will send her over the edge. It's not good for a small child who won't understand why grandma's screaming at her just because she said she likes dogs better than cats. Agreed. Can you imagine what would happen if OP did use Ella? The mother would likely start believing this child is actually her daughter. Slippery slope to a further breakdown fast. I'm sorry you grew up in Ella's shadow. It also isn't mentioned if your mom ever saw a therapist to help her process her grief. I'm sorry you didn't get to be yourself and be celebrated because Ella died. It must have been hard. You don't owe her this. She needs to process her grief. I, female 61, have 3 kids. My son, let's call him David, is 38. David got divorced a few years ago because he really wanted a kid. Still, his wife had no interest, so they divorced amicably. He met his current girlfriend, Jennifer, 36. Jennifer has 3 kids from her previous marriage. After a few weeks of going out, Jennifer told David that she's pregnant. David was happy. David has a good job but can't afford a partner and 4 kids. Plus, his landlord was evicting him. The landlord was selling the place. My husband and I offered to move him and Jennifer into our basement. The basement is newly renovated, with 2 bedrooms and separate from upstairs, so they can have privacy. Then the 2 older kids can have their rooms upstairs where we live. We won't be charging rent and can even help with their meals. Initially, everything was fine. Now that the baby's several months old, Jennifer constantly yells about how much she hates this basement. We clearly could hear. My husband asked Jennifer if she could ask her kids to clean their mess because they leave dirty dishes upstairs everywhere. She yelled and said we were bullying the kids. Her older 2 are tweens. It has been a non-stop struggle and fight downstairs. We tried not to get involved. Jennifer told my husband today that we should be the ones living in the basement because now, with 4 kids, they need more space. My husband told her that he has MS, and we specifically made upstairs accessible for him. Plus, it's his property. She didn't say anything, but later, David came upstairs and got angry that Jennifer had been crying, feeling suffocated here, and that we were not kind to her. Are we the idiot because we don't switch places with them? Edit. Jennifer's a freelance photographer. She once mentioned that we should sell the house and put a down payment for a place for them. We honestly can't. The house is accessible for my husband. I live close to my other kids and watch my grandbabies all the time, so I like my space. She wants you to sell your home so she can have her own without spending a dime? OP, I strongly urge you to set clear boundaries and stand up for yourself and your husband. Sorry to be harsh, but you need a backbone because these people are walking all over you. Family or not, this is not okay. OP, not the idiot. Lock down your credit now. Yeah, Jen has lost her darn mind. Do these people have any plans to move out? If they don't, it's time for you and your husband to sit them down and give them a timeline. Either they learn to respect and appreciate what they have, or they should plan to move out. But it makes me wonder what story your son has been telling her, because she's awfully bold. Did your son even bother with a paternity test, or just take her word that he's the father? Their timeline is very fast, and her entitlement makes me question her motives. I was wondering that too, about the paternity. It could very well be that David is not the baby daddy, and Jennifer is an opportunistic witch. OP, these are adults. They're responsible for their own actions and their participation in this situation. If they don't like the current situation, they're responsible for changing it. They're free to make their own choices, but they have no right to make choices for others. Tell David that his problem with his wife and kids are not your problem, and you can't help him fix his life. I hope everything works out for you. My wife has no concept of how to care for things. She buys cheap crap and replaces it when it breaks or wears out. I buy the best quality items that I can reasonably afford. I knew this about her going into our marriage. I told her that I didn't want to destroy my things, so I asked her to please leave my stuff alone. It worked great until it didn't. Her dollar store nonstick pan started sticking because she uses metal utensils on them. So she used my pan from Williams-Sonoma, and she scratched the heck out of it. She literally damaged the ceramic coating, so I replaced it. The same went for my laptop, which she needed to use and spilled wine on. I have everything backed up and I got a new laptop. She needed to use mine because she had sat on hers after leaving it on the couch. Those are just the most obvious examples I can think of. We just got our tax refunds. and we each kept a portion and put the rest into our joint account. She was surprised at how little there was in it. I reminded her that I had to replace the stuff she destroyed. She said it was ridiculous to spend $200 on a pan. I asked her how much she thought was the right amount, and she said it was about $10. I asked her to show me. We both fried an egg. Hers got stuck and burnt. Mine did not. She said that it was not her fault. I asked her who she thought damaged my 5-year-old pan. She didn't say anything. For the last week, she's been passive-aggressively using only her pots and pans and not really making good food. She took out my Le Creuset Dutch oven to make a pot roast for her parents, who were coming for dinner tomorrow night. I sent her a link to the website for that so she could see what it would cost to replace it. She's using her old slow cooker. That means the house will stink. She stained gravy onto the element once because she forgot to put the insert back in. I'm not going to divorce her. I want to know if I'm wrong for expecting her to use my stuff with care or replace it when she damages it. She thinks I'm being petty and bougie. Not the idiot. That would drive me crazy. You don't share the same values. You value quality and care. She values cheap goods and convenience and not bothering too much. Your things would last a lifetime. Her things have to be replaced multiple times, over and over. The environmental costs alone are huge. All that trash because she thinks it's disposable goods. Over time, she may pay more to replace the same item that you use and keep. She's the idiot. I understand that you don't want a divorce, but how will you resolve the value gap you have with each other? Good luck, OP. I hope she can learn from you along the way. Why did he pay from the shared account? He didn't damage the property he paid for. She did. The financial responsibility is on her only. I suggested that going forward, she pay for what she damages from her own account. And what's the point of being married if you have separate pots and pans and don't agree on anything, don't like the way she cooks, don't trust her, and just, yeesh, you're miserable in your marriage. She's not going to pay from her own account, though that would be the fairest. The most he'll be able to do is use their joint account, so she pays for some of it. But my inner psychic says she'll divorce him because she loves to trash anything of value, and therefore she values nothing. Her reasoning is that he was too petty and kept score. LOL. My husband and I bought a home 4 months ago, and his friend/coworker lives next door with his wife and their 6 kids. We both have infants. When we bought the home, it needed repair. All the carpets needed to be ripped out as they were repulsive. All the walls needed repair, holes in the walls, and repainted. But my husband dragged his feet because we just had a baby, and he didn't want to add more to our plate. He decided to do the repairs this week. Before giving birth, I was a general contractor working in construction since I was 15. I've helped build multiple homes, done flooring, painted, and even done concrete work, foundations. So I'm very experienced in that department. My husband is not. He's worked in restaurants since he was a teen, so he has no idea what he's doing. I planned to repair the walls and paint them when he worked on the rugs. After that was completed, I planned to build all of our own shelving, as our home lacks storage space of any kind, including closets. Along the way of assessing, we noticed some outside work that absolutely needed to be done to prevent mold and moisture, which he would also take care of. As an added measure, I plan to build our bed. We're currently sleeping on a mattress on the floor because our stuff was destroyed in a flood prior to our move. So I was going to build us a frame like I've done multiple other times. Now on to the issue. My husband has decided I can't help him because of the baby. The place is small, so he doesn't want the baby inside. He says that me building anything will take too much time, and he's decided to go out and buy shelving and bed frames at a much higher cost than I could build one for. He bought all white paint instead of the paint we agreed on, because this way is just faster. And his buddy's wife next door came over yesterday with her own 5-month-old to see how things were going and asked him if she could help. He said yes, despite knowing that I'm going mental because he won't let me do anything. even though this is literally my profession. She just stuck her kid in my kid's jumper and started helping. As soon as he told her she could help, I just took my baby and left. I told him I'd be at my mother's. He's now upset with me because I don't understand that he's just trying to get this done. So I commented on the fact that he should have let me help him, but instead, he allowed his buddy's wife to do something I should have been doing in the first place. He says I'm overreacting because I know why he didn't want me helping, but if they don't care that their kid is around it, then that's a them problem. I don't even want to go back now. I'm so disgusted that he's even letting her help, knowing that I'm already angry that he won't let me do anything. Am I the idiot? Sounds to me like your husband has some weird gender role hang-ups. You are not the idiot. I think his manhood is threatened by your ability to do traditional male tasks, and he wants to keep you in a female childcare role. I wouldn't want to go back either. You're either going to have to stand up for yourself and work on a compromise with your husband or move on with your life. I think you're right. Yesterday, he had a buddy over there who's also a general contractor, and he texted me and said, "I wish you were here learning this stuff with me," knowing that I already know it because I'm a general contractor myself. It felt like he didn't take me seriously. Wow, that's insulting. In my opinion, what he texted you showed a huge lack of respect. Text him that. I already know how to do this stuff. I get paid to do it every day. It's my literal job. It's how we afforded to buy this house. If he gets mad, screw him. But don't have another baby with him. Dad and my mom divorced when I was 7. At first, he visited me once a week, but the visits became less frequent. By the time I was 10, he only came over once a month. Yesterday, my childhood cat was put down. It was also my dad's wedding day. I had already called my dad a week in advance, telling him I couldn't attend. I had to be there for my cat when she was put down. He scolded me over the phone, saying I shouldn't choose my cat over his wedding. I told him I had already been to his second and third weddings, so what was the big deal if I missed his fourth one? That led to a lot of shouting on his part before I hung up. This morning, he said he was very upset, so I told him I don't want to see him again if he continues to be a jerk. He told me that he has visitation rights. I told him I turned 18 6 months ago and that he shouldn't visit if he cares so little that he couldn't remember my birthday. My half-sister, who isn't related but is quite fond of my dad, said that I didn't have to be harsh to him and that it didn't solve any issue. Not the idiot. Well, you could have picked a different day to put the cat down. It's his fourth wedding. At some point, you've done your duty. Wild of him to just assert visitation rights. He's likely scared and angry because now you're an adult and you can just cut him off when you want to. And maybe you should. You could have picked a different day? No. I'm so sorry about your cat. And it doesn't sound like you need to be told this, but don't let anyone convince you that it would have been better to keep your cat suffering and in pain for longer for your dad's fourth wedding. It seems like the cat may have been around longer than the fourth wife anyway. So he didn't have the time to come see you, but he had time for 2 failed marriages, and now on to the third since your parents divorced. He's made it blatantly clear where his priorities lie. He's selfish, and being a father was an afterthought for him. I'm sorry you have such a crappy donor. Your sister may need more time to realize this about him. It's harder to see the faults in your parents when you're young.